Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
American President Grover Cleveland said this: "Above all, I know there is a supreme being who rules the affairs of men and whose goodness and mercy have always followed the American people. And I know he will not turn from us now if we humbly and reverently seek his powerful aid." We need to do that more today than ever before. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Tuesday, last day of June. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call 734-6969. And our friends at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Everything for the farm, the home, and the ranch at Valley White Home and Ranch. Well, let's see who's going to give the pledge this morning. Go ahead, please.
Will do, sir.
There's that timid little voice over in the corner raising its hand. Go ahead, sir, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Attaboy, Wheels, way to go. Nice job. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It's time now to take a look at our weather forecast, and it's brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Look for the blue door. And today is, what is today? It's Tuesday. That means it's Tile Tuesday. For a shower floor, use only a tile size 7x7 or smaller so that you get that dip for drainage. There's a little tip for you from Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door, and they can take care of whatever you need to make your house a home. Right now, here's the weather.
Sorry, sir. Gina said that she had got it loaded, but there's no weather.
Oh, well, my goodness. Without the weather, I'll sit there and say that we should have a high. I'm doing this out of memory. We should have a high today of about 99 and looking for a high tomorrow of about the same. Warm temperatures are going to last all the way through this week for a hot firecracker 4th of July. So hopefully, Wheels, can we rectify that for the next hour?
Yeah, I'll call and talk to Gina while...
All right, you take care of that, buddy. Thank you much. And hot temperatures are going to prevail, so keep cool, keep hydrated, drink a lot of water, and enjoy a warm 4th of July weekend. And we want to say thanks again to Cheney Flooring and Home Design, and they're located at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Thank you very much. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Burley Livestock Sale Yard with the sale every Thursday starting at 10 a.m., and that's the sale that works for you. If you need more information about consignments or anything to do with the sale at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, you call 678-9411. 678-9411. Merv May, Cade Rogge, Lance Udy, all there to serve you at 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Bit my tongue, hurts bad. Burley, Idaho, Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You give them a call today. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to remind everybody, this is the last day of June and the last day that we can say a great big thank you to our friends with United Dairymen of Idaho and June Dairy Month. And I want to say thank you very much for all your support. They were great. We had a lot of sponsors in this area that jumped in and supported June Dairy Month with different giveaways, etc. And I just want to thank all the sponsors involved for June Dairy Month right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Thank you very much. Hey, Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Can clean anything, your rumply crumplies, you get in there, and they can make everything look brand spanking new. Better believe it. Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, and the number to call, 878-8900. Kevin and Cindy and everybody else there with the best of dry cleaning to make your clothes last longer and look better at Darrow's Cleaners in Burley. And also, don't forget SafeLink Internet. And they've been with us for a long, long time. We've been on their program for a long, long time. SafeLink Internet, Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet. And no contracts, no credit checks, unlimited data. They can and will help you, your business, your office, etc. SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. You call and get on their program today. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I've got some serious stories this morning that I want to talk about. In case you haven't heard or seen, and I want you to pay attention to this, please. The FBI, our FBI, has been setting up command centers across the United States for this 4th of July weekend. Now, in case you haven't heard this, there have been some rumors and little innuendos and then some stories that started leaking out about this, and yes, it's true. And the FBI, according to some news reports that were sent to me early this morning at about 5:15 our time here in the Mountain West, the FBI is establishing command centers around the country to monitor any potential terrorist threats around the Independence 4th of July Day weekend. And there is no, this is something else. I honestly believe there had to be something of a warning. There had to be something said. There had to be something that came across their desks in order to do this. But the sources have said, while there is no specific credible threat surrounding the holiday this weekend, authorities are particularly concerned about soft targets like shopping malls and other areas where there are large gatherings of people and rather light security. Information from local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies will be sent to the command centers so officials can gauge the threat level and respond quickly. I don't know about you all out there, but this does not give me a warm, fuzzy feeling. Many intelligence advisors, and I have talked to yesterday probably 4 or 5 different think tanks on the East Coast, and say that we are possibly this weekend at an imminent, those are the words they used, I did not, they put that in there, imminent attack in various locations around the United States. Where is the president? Where is Obama? Where is demanding time on television to try to soothe and salve the feelings of the American public and tell them, no, everything's all right. We've got it under control. Don't worry. Where is he? Has anybody seen him? Where is the president? Has he said anything? Has he done anything? Has he warned anybody? Has he encouraged anyone? No. If you've seen something or heard something like that, please give me a call. And Texas Representative Mike McCall, to which I'm developing, much more allegiance to as far as trusting him, far more than anybody else involved in the dilemma of security. He said he is extremely worried about this weekend, the 4th of July weekend. And here's a little something I want to throw out at you, and I want you to call me, and if you don't agree with me, fine. I've had people disagree with me in the past. That's no big deal. But if you have a concealed weapons permit, where the object the permit is for, is that plain enough? If you have a concealed weapons permit, where the object the permit is for. And I would suggest wholeheartedly that everyone, I don't care if you're going to a theme park, a water park, I don't care if you're going to a parade, I don't care if you're going to a rodeo, I don't care where you're going, where there will be numbers of people, a mall, it doesn't make any difference. Diligence and awareness. Those are the two words that I think you need to practice. Diligence and awareness of all of your surroundings all of the time. Literally, be careful out there and be aware. Calls are welcome, 436-2244. While I'm waiting for your call, I want to remind everybody about Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call ahead, have everything waiting for you on the counter, 678-0459. And they're open 7:30 in the morning to 5 Monday through Friday. And if you turned your air conditioner on yesterday and said, whoa, baby, and then all of a sudden it got really ugly and quit, maybe you need a new air filter so it can do the job efficiently. They've got all of them at Ramsey Heating and Electric. 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Also, real quick, a reminder about Valleywide Home and Ranch. Oh, my goodness sakes, Valleywide. They've got everything over there. You going fishing this weekend? Well, they have got absolutely everything for you over in their fishing department at Valleywide, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. And even the licenses, even the worms, they've got it all for you right there at Valleywide Home and Ranch. And bug spray, fly spray. Oh, man, I've noticed those old flies are just kind of glamoring onto us. And they won't leave. You can just about hit them with your other finger, and they'll still stay there and go, God, you're going to miss me. Anyway, they're all over the place, along with all the bugs. So please stop into Valleywide Home and Ranch. And all the 4-H'ers that show that they're a 4-H card member, they get a 10% discount on everything they need for their projects for the county fairs. At Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert, you stop in and see them today at Valleywide Home and Ranch. What do you folks think about this potential scare about our 4th of July? I heard one person, and I honestly didn't get the name. I honestly didn't find out who it was, but I was just passing by the TV set. And there was some nincompoop that was saying, well, yeah, but we shouldn't put out any American flags to incite these people. What? I'll guarantee you I'm going to stick flags up all over my property. I'm proud of this country. I'm proud of what this country has been. I'm proud of what this country is and can be again with proper leadership and leadership that's going to be for the United States of America. Yes, I am going to fly my flag and many others with it. Diligence and awareness of all of your surroundings this weekend. And just be careful out there, my friends. Please be careful. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What do you think about the 4th of July weekend, Independence Day? And some of these people saying imminent attack, possibly from ISIS. And where's the president? Where's Joe Biden? Why aren't they saying something? Why aren't they being visible on television about some of these terror threats? Answer that for me, please. While I'm waiting for your call, don't forget Denny's Restaurant at 611 Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. My goodness, the food is fantastic. Whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you're going to absolutely love going to Denny's. Take your friends, take your neighbors, take your whole family. Everybody enjoy. And again, like I said, the menus are just absolutely, the food's delicious. The portions are great. You're not going to walk away hungry, I'll tell you that. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. The best Denny's Restaurant serving you. It is good. As are our friends over at Barry Equipment and Rental. These are good people at Barry Equipment and Rental. And by the way, today is the last day for 0% financing on Walker mowers. So zip in there today to Barry Equipment and Rental and check out the Walker mowers. Man, those are big, fancy dudes that can get the mowing done for you. They have the equipment for any job to get it done right at Barry Equipment and Rental. Locations on South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. And I'll tell you, Nick over in the Burley area, along with Will Janes and everybody else, they are good folks to work with at Barry Equipment and Rental. You stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You are on the air. Thank you for your call.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, my friend. What can I do for you?
Well, remember when President Obama says it was in 2011, he named the exact date and time that we were going to pull out?
Mm-hmm.
So our enemy said, okay, we'll just wait and take care of it then. Well, the enemy is not as dumb as we think they are, because what they're doing is they're reversing this on Obama and putting out these little thoughts about the 4th of July. You got to prepare for that. So we spend, the government spends a lot of money on these FBI things and all this anticipation of this. Do you think they're dumb enough to tell you the day they're going to come?
You know, Keith, there's so much written into these stories about these FBI command centers. There's so much that's not written into these stories. First of all, it says this. The FBI is establishing command centers around the country. Okay, where? How do you get a hold of them? How do you get with these people in case it's in your area to let them know that something sinister is going down? The president has not spoken out on this. The vice president has not spoken out on this. And the authorities say they are particularly concerned about soft targets like shopping malls and other places. Well, Keith, big deal. We don't even know where these command centers are or anything else. This is really kind of an ambiguous situation, is it not?
That's correct, and it's very costly, too, because of the preparation of anticipation.
Yeah.
And these people have become very, very good at it. A lot of people say, well, I'm not going to go to that baseball game because there's going to be a lot of people there, and we're going to get bombed and all this kind of stuff. So fear itself has drug our country down.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Fear-mongering does so much to put people ill at ease with a slight shudder and chill down their backbone. Well, Martha, let's not go shopping. Well, Martha, let's not go to the parade. Well, Martha, let's not go to the baseball game. And then pretty soon we start to withdraw and we don't go anywhere, do anything. And that is when a society is most susceptible to be taken over and completely controlled.
Yes, and one of the big targets I think is going to become is NASCAR, because they have such large seating areas. My goodness, like the one in Las Vegas, can feed over 220,000 people.
Yeah. I'm concerned about everything in this country. I am concerned about us as a country weakening and kowtowing to these threats and these veiled threats that we have not leadership to stand up on the television screen and say, ladies and gentlemen, this is the President of the United States, and I want to reassure you we're doing everything we can in our power to make sure that you and your family is safe this 4th of July weekend. Now, I'm going to ask you, have you seen or heard the President talking about this at any time in the last 10 days?
Well, I'll put it this way. He hasn't called me, so I don't know whether he's around or not.
All right, Keith. God bless you. I got to run. Thanks, buddy. Don't forget BASF, and we have the BASF report every Monday with my dear friend Ron Ellis, and they've got all the products with excellent research to help your crops grow better. Absolutely. With crops like, products, I should say, like Preaxor and Endura and many others that are going to be sure and help and ensure a better crop for your potatoes and your sugar beets. For more information about BASF and all of their excellent research for your crops and the growth of your crops, contact your fieldmen or crop advisors today, or contact my dear friend Ron Ellis at 431-6776. That number again, 431-6776. BASF, committed to successful agriculture. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I dare say that everybody should be and is concerned about safety for various events around the United States. And I don't know. I had a kind of a chilled feeling yesterday when I had a call from back east, and they were talking to me about some of the FBI command centers and some of the soft targets that maybe these people that are absolutely bent on destroying and killing. It is a little worrisome right now because nobody seems to know too much or is saying too much. Don't forget the 89th annual Rupert 4th of July celebration. Salute our troops. They absolutely have one of the finest 4th of July celebrations in the entire country. And it started this morning at 6 o'clock with a great big Christmas in July breakfast right there at the city park. And tonight they've got the fireworks display, and tomorrow the food booths and entertainment all the way through the 4th of July. And don't forget the great big parade at 11 o'clock around the square and around Rupert on the 4th of July. Salute our troops. 89th annual 4th of July celebration. Don't you miss it. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. In just a few moments, we're going to do our Capital Press Ag Minute. I want to read a little bit out of I found it very disturbing editorial that was in the Times News on Sunday morning. And I'm going to read 2 paragraphs to you right now out of this editorial. And I want you to kind of chew on it, listen about it, and again, give me a call and tell me your thoughts. Okay? Here we go. In the past few weeks, the Magic Valley has been embroiled in its own cultural tug of war over Syrian refugees slated to relocate in Twin Falls this fall. It's brought out the best in some, the worst in others. Disenfranchised whites have globbed onto the issue and used it to project their woes. To be sure, some are beginning to feel like strangers in their own country and are struggling to adapt to a changing world. Think about those 2 paragraphs out of that editorial and talk to me in a few minutes. I'm going to have the Capital Press Ag Minute right now. And I was very chilled when I read that in the paper, and I'll explain why in just a few minutes, but I'd like your thoughts. Don't forget, hearing loss is not normal. Hearing loss is not good for you. It's not good for the family. It's not good for anything. And there is a way to rectify the problem. And make sure you have it checked so you can help stop the problem. Call Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with Christine Pickup Pickup Doctor of Audiology, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room, and the number 312-0957. 312-0957, and get a schedule appointment for a hearing screening today. Mount Harrison Audiology. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
An advisory committee conducting a nationwide search for a new dean for the University of Idaho's College of Agriculture and Life Sciences has expanded the search. According to University of Idaho's officials, additional candidates have been identified and will be brought to campus to be interviewed in person. The 14-member committee has narrowed the pool of candidates from 25 to 4, and those final 4 were interviewed in Moscow in May. One of those candidates has since withdrawn from consideration. University officials had told ag industry leaders they hope to have a new dean in place by July 1st, but that won't happen now. Officials say additional candidates will be brought to campus next week. For the Capital Press Ag Minute, I am Raul Pena.
All right, thanks, Raul. And right now, Mount Harrison Audiology bringing you the Capital Press Ag Minute. And I firmly believe in this lady and what she can do to help your hearing, and she's helped mine. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, 312-0957. Hey, Wheels, how about the Silver State Stampede?
Nevada's oldest rodeo, the Silver State Stampede, thunders into Elko July 9th, 10th, and 11th for family entertainment at its best. This PRCA-sanctioned rodeo brings you the thrill of rodeo riders going head-to-head in one of the world's toughest sports, rodeo. The action kicks off on Thursday with the annual kickoff party, including a tri-tip dinner, mutton busting, the Old West bronc riding, and dancing to the music of the Jeff Palmer Band. Things heat up on Friday and Saturday with PRCA rodeo action, the Ring of Fear, mutton busing, and all the fun, music, and dancing you can handle. And don't forget on Saturday, it's tough enough to wear pink. Pick up your tickets today at Roy's, the J.M. Capriola Company, the Boot Barn, IFA, or the Elko Chamber Office. Nevada's oldest rodeo, the Silver State Stampede, thundering into Elko July 9th, 10th, and 11th. Family entertainment at its very best.
Oh, my, yes, we'll be down there again this year. Going to be great. I want to go back to this newspaper editorial, and I really would like your opinions on this. When you listen to this and read this, it sounds like, naturally, they're after people like me on the radio that are against the refugee program at CSI, which I am. I absolutely am against the way it's structured right now. And I also am very questioning. I want to say this before I take the call. I am very questioning about Muslim Syrian refugees coming into this country with really no validated or vetted checks on their background because, quite frankly, we don't have the information. And I'll tell this caller I can't talk to. Call later, please. I'm on the air. Thank you. And but anyway, caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Change is all right if it's for the good. But when you start flooding the country with people for votes to keep a particular party in power, that's what's going to kill this country.
Well, let me ask you, did you read this editorial that was in Sunday's paper?
I quit taking the paper a long time ago because I got tired of the garbage that was in it.
Well, there was so many insinuations in the way it was written, which I thought was poorly written, by the way, and I'd like to know who did write this. But that one paragraph that, because we're asking questions about Muslim Syrian refugees coming into our country, it's brought out the best in some and the worst in others. And then this statement really got to me, Tony. Disenfranchised whites, as if it's a racist thing, have globbed onto the issue and used it to project their woes. That really bothers me.
Well, why should our country be flooded with people that have no education, and they're going to eventually break the taxpayers, and we're going to be in worse shape than Greece is? We don't know who these people are, because as far as background checks go, as far as I know, those background checks are worthless.
You said as far as we're going to be in worse shape than Greece is, let me just say this. Because of the magnitude of our economy and the magnitude and the outreach that our economy has influence on the world, if we go down, it's going to make Greece look like a Sunday school picnic.
That's right. Puerto Rico is next.
Tony, always appreciate your call. God bless you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Calls are welcome and appreciated. There was a real racist attitude in this statement. Disenfranchised whites, and then further down in that paragraph, we're struggling to adapt to a changing world. Changing world. How do you define that, changing world? We're getting away from the principles and the honest values that this country had. Is that what we're having to accept right now, to adapt to a changing world? Well, if it's the case of accepting all the sleaze, the filth, and the political correctness, I don't want to adapt to a changing world. Calls are welcome. Give me a jingle, please. Like to hear what your thoughts are. While I'm waiting for your call, don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, right behind Dr. Crane's office. And Nick Greenwell, physical therapist, and the rest of the staff, absolutely phenomenal at working with you with a great mix of exercises, sports medicine, the hydrotherapy, pool, everything at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation to help you get back to being you. That's the key right there. 678-1191, the number to call. 678-1191, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. You call and make an appointment today. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. In just a moment, I want to talk about something else I could not believe when I saw this interview on television this morning, and it's about our flag here in the United States. By the way, Dixon Oil, 602 South 2nd in Rupert says, have a very happy, safe 4th of July Independence Day weekend. Dixon Oil, a great service station with gas and oil and the heating and propane, everything at Dixon Oil. Daryl and the crew say they wish you a very happy weekend and safe weekend from Dixon Oil in Rupert. Really good folks. Thank you much. There was a guy, and I want you to pay close attention to this, and I've seen him in some of his work before, where he enlists a camera operator, and then he goes out on the street, and he has conducted men on the street interviews with some very poignant questions to see really how Americans think and feel about certain topics. And I'm not talking about Waters World on O'Reilly. I'm talking about another guy. Well, this guy went out in San Diego, and I might preface my remarks by saying he is a very staunch red, white, and blue patriot American. But with all the flag flap going on right now, started with the Confederate flag, and then, of course, the dim-witted, not very smart, never can be, Louis Farrakhan, came out and said that we ought to also ban the United States flag. This gentleman went out on the streets in San Diego and wanted to find out what young people around that community, young probably 35 and under, what they thought about our United States flag, and if the question was posed to them that with a new world order, our flag should be denounced and a new flag brought into existence. Now, he honestly expected, I heard him on television talking about this, he honestly expected to be jeered and verbally abused by even the younger generation in this country. It didn't work that way. He was absolutely shocked when he asked them to sign a petition to get rid of our flag. Most of them agreed and said that we, the United States, were at fault for everything and all the world woes. And I was taken aback by this. It just absolutely astounded me, and it shocked him that the schools in high school, the colleges and universities are preaching that we're the bad guy. We've been the major sinner. We have been the major perpetrator. We've got to stop this. The United States is bad. It's got to be denounced. Got to change the flag. Got to get rid. Wow. And he was shocked just like I am. What are we going to do? And it comes down to we, you and me, and everybody else. What are we going to do, folksies, to instill patriotism and love of country for this great United States again? I'll give you a few small instances on this program. There have been people complaining and have said, why don't you get rid of that Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of your program and get rid of that old has-been Kate Smith with God Bless America? Well, my response to them is, if you want to start your own radio program and pay the money I do for this program, you run the show any way you want. You put any kind of music you want on it. But until that happens and your program beats my program, it's going to stay Kate Smith, and we're going to stay with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jeb. If that's their attitude, I got a news for them. Just keep the hell out of my way, because I won't put up with your crap.
You know, what happened? When I was growing up, I mean, the 4th of July, the flags, the patriotism, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, I remember hearing about some of our local soldiers when I was growing up in Wisconsin that had passed away from various conflicts, etc., and it brought tears to my eyes, and it made us proud to stand there and salute the red, white, and blue. What happened, Al?
Well, they just don't pay attention to what went on. If they could see all the soldiers during World War II that would blow all the hell over in there, and Pearl Harbor, and in Korea, and all them soldiers laid there and like cordwood stacked up, froze to death, and stuff like that. Vietnam, all that stuff. They don't remember what happened. We let our guard down. We let them in here, and we started funding their things. I say the hell with it. Take all the funding back. These countries that want to say, well, we need $20 billion for this. I say, you go to hell.
Well, you know,
don't get one red cent.
This all kind of ties in a way, and I'm not soliciting this for any vote for any one particular candidate, but when you think about it, the only candidate that has stood up for America and said, if you don't like it, I don't care, and that's Donald Trump. I mean, well, Al, wait a minute. You got to admit that he told it like it was about illegal immigration. He told it like it was about all these people crossing our border, and we don't know what they're here for or what they're going to bring. He told it the way it was in the country of Mexico. They demanded an apology, and he says, I'm not going to apologize to you. I spoke the truth.
I know. That's what gets me mad is just like when Pearl Harbor hit, them people, them ambassadors, 1 hour before that attack happened, they got on the plane 1 hour before that happened, and they left the country. They knew what was coming on, and we were so stupid to let them get away with it.
But, you know, stupid is one thing, and letting them get away with it is one thing, but also in reverence for all of our soldiers. Tomorrow night, there is a gathering over in Rupert, and it is to honor the Idaho Roll Call Memorial Monument. And I'm going to be the master of ceremonies there, and I'm very proud to have been asked, and it starts at 6 p.m. Al, I'm going to have a hard time getting through that ceremony without shedding tears of all my friends in college and high school that have given their lives for this country so that we can enjoy the best of everything.
I know. It just burns my tail. I would sit here and listen to all this rhetoric going on, as these people don't know what the hell they're talking about. All they can think of is, oh, gimme this, gimme that. Well, I'll tell you what, you give me your attention 5 minutes and I might educate you.
You know, it starts in the schools, Al. I think the school teachers, and I'm not pointing my finger at all school teachers, but those that feel a little bit uncomfortable, then I am pointing my finger at you. I pointed at the school principals. I pointed at the school boards for not taking the time to really educate our kids about our flag, our country, our patriotism, the great wealth and vast expanses of how great this country has been over every other country in the world. They're not teaching that anymore, Al.
I know. So I'm going to request and ask all the people around this area, stand up for your rights, stand up to the American flag, and stand up with pride. And somebody says, gimme, 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 say no, no, no.
All right, Al. I always
Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Bye.
Thank you much. You know, really, this might be the turning point this year. I hope for the better. I hope when that flag passes by, you'll stand. You'll stand. Men, remove cover and look at that flag and think about all that you have, all that you've been given because of those that have put on the uniform and fought for you and this country. Right now it's time for Take a Look at the Weather, and the weather is brought to you this hour by Mad River Laser, and she can make all the business promotional items. She is just absolutely phenomenal. Whether it's the caps for your business, jackets, t-shirts, whatever, or the handouts, business promotional items, everything. She's got the buck knives over there. Great selection. You can have those engraved. Oh, my. You better stop over and see Mad River Laser at 502 East Street in Rupert, serving you with the best. And right now, here is the weather.
Here's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Looks like this high-pressure system is going to be sticking around throughout at least the next week, possibly the next 10 days, and it means it's going to be sunny and hot. Partly to mostly sunny skies for today. High right around 100. Expect a low right near 67. For Wednesday, as we kick off the first day of July, sunny and 97, and it's going to remain pretty much steady. Highs are going to be in the upper 90s to low 100s. Lows are going to be in the low to mid-60s for the next week. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
No, Gina, that was a lot better forecast than I had first hour because of the fact that I wasn't quite sure what the weather was. And she did a great job. Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Your sponsor of the weather this hour, and the number to call them is 436-2293. You know, I guess maybe I came from another generation that my mom and dad, we had so many activities on the 4th of July. And we belonged to a horse equine club back in Wisconsin. And it was one of those clubs that we went to rodeos and horse shows and trail rides and everything. But every 4th of July, and I got to admit to you, I didn't like riding in parades. I still don't. I don't want to be the focal point. But every 4th of July, our great big equine family saddle club was invited to be one of the mainstays of a huge 4th of July parade back in southern Wisconsin. And at that time, when you're a teenager and you think you know everything, and you don't, I didn't. And I don't want to go out and sit there in that hot weather waiting for a parade and all this. But boy, looking back, and knowing that my dad put on the uniform of the United States Army and served in World War II over in Germany. My uncle put on the uniform and served in Germany. My other uncle served in the Japanese War back in World War II. And then I think of all my friends, all my buddies from high school and college that put on the uniform and they didn't come home. They'd love to be sitting under a shade tree this 4th of July weekend, having maybe a dish of homemade ice cream and watching the kids play with the sparklers and the fireworks, watching the parades, having family fun. They'd love to, but they're gone because they died serving this country and protecting us. Woe betide the person that comes up to me ever and denigrates Independence Day, the 4th of July, or this country. It means so much to me and my family. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, Ab. I started talking about something yesterday about religious persecution, basically, that's going on in this country, and about the power that the church members themselves have. And the churches are worried about their tax-exempt status. Well, the church members alone can exercise their First Amendment rights by getting together away from the church, leaving their pastor alone, not getting him involved in it, and have something meetings maybe once a month. We've got millions and millions of churchgoers out there that are going to lose this religion if they don't do something about putting a stop to this persecution that's going on. And that's basically what it is.
Yeah, but Tony, I'm a little bit different than you on your thoughts. While I respect very much you as a friend and also your thoughts, I'm one of these kind of guys that says, nope. Make the church bigger and stronger. Bring the congregation together. Just absolutely stick your chin out and say we're not turning the other cheek. Government, you can just do all you want, but you're not going to break up our church. You're not going to break up our congregation. You are not going to do anything to harm us. Just bring it on, and we will turn you away.
Yeah, that'd be nice if it would be happening, but there's still fear there is about losing the money.
You know, and I agree with you. I agree with you, Tony, as far as the tax exempt and everything else. But, you know, there's also another way to look at this, and I think you're going to agree with me. To heck with it. If they lose it, big deal. I tell you what, right now it's time for churches, pastors, leaders of the congregation, all people that believe in Jesus Christ as their Savior and are Christian people to stand up and be counted for and not worry about tax exempt status.
Well, the less we do now, the stronger the church people are going to get.
Yeah. We are living in very serious times. We still have 569 days left of this insidious president. And yes, your words are correct. God help us. Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
God bless you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, 569 days left. That's 568 too many. Right now, don't forget, ready for summer travel? Well, you will be, can be, and should be when you stop in to your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with a free pre-trip safety check. Bring a coupon in. You've seen them around the area. And they'll give you an inspection, a visual inspection of the wheel alignment, the brake service, the front end components, and the shocks and the struts. Hey, they want to make sure you're safe. And they've got some great tire buys, too. They've got some passenger car tires starting at just $39.99 at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Great, fantastic brake service, too. Over 30 years, they've been providing the best in brake service to their customers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Mr. Bell, I was listening to you about the Pledge of Allegiance in our schools. The second year I was in the legislature, we passed legislation that every school class would do the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. You can't believe the amount of resistance we get from the education community about how could we waste our time doing that. That was back in 1998.
Bert, how long does it take to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Maybe at the most 20 seconds?
Right. And yet we'll complain about that and we'll squander a whole class period talking about some of this other crap.
Yeah.
I just appreciate it.
No, just stay on the line for a minute, because you have been there. You've been on the firing line as far as politics in the state of Idaho is concerned. And I really was careful with my words about 20 minutes ago when I said not all educators, not all schools, and not all teachers, but there is a major growing problem today that they don't have time to teach patriotism. They don't have time to teach about the flag. They don't have time to to teach about this country. And I'll guarantee you, my elementary school teacher, Mrs. Kiltz, she'd get tears in her eyes talking about the value of this great country. And I'll tell you what, we need more of it.
Well, I agree with you on that, Zeb, but we need more of it, of talking about the patriotism that brings communities and countries together.
Amen.
What happens here in America now? We do everything we can to divide every organization, everything else, by a negative response to everything that's on there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and when you said you met resistance about the Pledge of Allegiance, 17 to maybe 20 seconds long, 17 to 20 seconds, and people don't have time, that is such a lame, flimsy, absolutely desolate approach to an excuse I've ever heard in my life.
Well, yeah, and then take a look at that here 15 years later, Zeb. Most of the classes don't even do it now. We passed a law that said they had to do it.
Yeah.
They don't do it now.
That's right. Bert, to you and Elaine and your family, have a very safe Independence Day, 4th of July weekend. God bless you, my dear friend, and I mean that. Thank you for all you've done.
Thanks, Ed. It's good to visit with you.
Thank you, sir. That man and his wife mean so much to me because there's an American citizen that absolutely has devoted his time to serving others. And I'll mention him by name, former Representative Bert Stevenson, a very red, white, and blue American, and I'm proud to say one of my best friends. God bless you. We're going to take a little break, and we'll be back. Frosty Woolridge at 9:06. Don't miss it. I'll see you then. And ladies and gentlemen, Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Valley Wide Home and Ranch at 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Everything for the farm, the home, and the ranch. And our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and resources. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
I'll tell you what, folks, get on the best of route service to have your garbage picked up and get rid of it. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Locally owned and operated and serving all of Magic Valley. You give them a call today and check on the great big storage units, too, the Go Minis. Absolutely a great idea for you through Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Run a little bit behind here this morning, and so therefore we're going to quickly go right ahead and tell you more about our friends at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. And the number to call, 436-5636, with Joel Heward and his family and staff. Always there serving you when you need them. And when there's the passing of a loved one, don't forget, Hanson Mortuary, always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. They're serving you. And locally owned and operated, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. Right now, let's go to the phone lines, and I believe we have my dear friend from Colorado, Frosty Woolridge. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Zeb. Always a pleasure, and happy Tuesday. And hopefully every person listening today is ready to celebrate the 4th of July, and hopefully we can, at some point, take our country back so that we actually do have a 4th of July. So hopefully you're all out there agitating and voting for American citizens, for American offices across the land, and certainly to bring our country back to the U.S. Constitution. Right now, it looks pretty grim in so many areas.
You know, and let's just kind of talk about these. You wrote a really good piece that I've got right in front of me, Dismantling America's National Identity via Endless Immigration. But I want to talk to you about some of the aspects that have been coming up this week. You know, Frosty, I commented on this first hour. There are now today across the United States different FBI command centers that have been sent up across the United States for this weekend, Independence Day, 4th of July weekend. And some of the people I talked to on the East Coast have said, wow, the threat's out there. There must be a real worry or they wouldn't be doing this. But where's the president? Where's the vice president? They're not saying anything.
Well, that's correct. And of course, what's not being said is these are Muslim Islamic threats to our country. There's no other terrorists out there but Muslim terrorists. And it's amazing how they euphemistically say there's a threat, there's terrorists, there's extremists, there's everything else. But in the end, these are Muslims. And they're the Muslims that have been allowed to immigrate to our country. And there's so many of them that are saying so many unbelievably terrible things. I mean, I know many of the listeners know the Muslim American Louis Farrakhan, and he said last week we need to put down the American flag as well as the Confederate flag because it too has been around our necks for more than 200 years. Unquote.
Right.
There's unbelievable statements being made. One of them was a Fox News poll that showed 51% of Muslim Americans want Sharia law instituted as the law of the land. Now, if that's not dismantling America's national identity through immigration, I don't know what is. Because if we ever allowed the Muslims to gain 535 seats in the U.S. Congress, I guarantee you they would vote Sharia law into this country that would then supersede the U.S. Constitution. And then your rights as an American citizen, your rights as an individual, certainly if you're a woman, your rights would be completely subjected. You would have no rights. You would have no choice to go to school. You wouldn't have any choice to choose your own mate. You certainly wouldn't have a choice of religion. Women have no voice in Sharia law-dominated countries. So this is pretty serious on so many, in so many areas here in our country as we're literally dismantling our national identity.
Frosty, I have never been more concerned as I have been in the last, let's say, 8 months, especially on a local basis with our College of Southern Idaho taking on the integration into our system, into our culture, with the federal government's help on bringing in the refugees and the new group that's coming in this fall, our Syrian Muslim refugees. We don't know about their backgrounds. We don't know all about their case histories. We don't know about their political aspirations or what their politics are, and I'm very concerned about it. But if you raise a voice of question, you are called a bigot and a hate monger.
Well, again, the liberal media and certainly the liberal press on all areas, whether it's radio, certainly if it's in print, but it's also in the TV programs across the country, are literally cutting their own throats. And they're cutting our throats at the same time with that whole racial aspect and or the religious aspect. You can have, it's called BET, Black Entertainment. You can have Black Panthers, you can have Black Power, you can have Black this, Black that, and Black everything else. You can have Hispanic Caucus, the Black Caucus. But if you have anything that has to do with White Caucus or White Power or anything of that nature, you will be condemned for life. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing two different systems working in this country. And as I said, we are dismantling America's national identity. One of the things that was so disgusting is the former mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, who, if he was still alive, he just died. He's age 66. He just died last year. But he was calling for a new Republic of Africa that would, here in America, that would encompass the 5 southern states, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and New Orleans. And he was the mayor of the largest city there, in Mississippi. And so you have to wonder exactly what's going on here. And of course, I think I shared this, that I, having just cycled down California's coast, there's a city, well, there's actually two cities south of San Francisco where the Chinese immigrants speak and write and read nothing but Chinese. These people are not anything having to do with America. They don't speak English. They literally go. I was in the stores there. It's all Chinese. So there's a loss of the American and national identity of America because they prefer not to have any affiliation or identification with America. That's also happening, of course, in Vancouver, Canada. I mean, the Chinese are pushing out all of the Canadians, and of course those are white Canadians, which formerly dominated. But you also look at Dearborn, Michigan. It's now called Dearbornistan because it has so many Eastern Muslims that they show no affinity for becoming Americans or assimilating into America. And I guarantee you, if you're in Dearborn and Detroit area where they dominate, about 350 to 400,000 of them, you are not welcome, especially a white person. You're simply not welcome. In fact, on my Facebook page, if you want to see my articles, Frosty Wooldridge, on my Facebook page, one lady just wrote in on the column that I wrote, and she said, if you go to Dearborn, you can tell very quickly that the Muslims don't like you, and they don't make any bones about it. She said it right there. Of course, I used to work in Detroit, so I know this for a fact myself.
Right.
And they're also creating madrasas, Muslim madrasas, to teach their kids solely from the Quran. Now, does anybody think that the Quran has anything in affinity with the American people, with the U.S. Constitution? And of course, the answer is no, because children growing up being taught through the Quran, literally women possess no rights to education or choice of spouse. They have no voting rights. They have no personal rights. They have no religious rights. And they've got to submit to female genital mutilation, honor killings, and arranged marriages. That's what's going on in the Quran countries. So we're being changed over. Again, how many of you listening this morning have to push 1 for English and 2 for Spanish? I don't know if anybody knows this, but there's more Spanish speakers here in the United States, I think it's like 42 million, than there are in Spain. And not only that, the Hispanic-Mexican ethnic group will become the new dominant majority, 51% majority by 2042. Again, in Denver Public Schools, there's 172 different languages. 172 different languages.
Wow.
Kids aren't learning English, and we can't teach them anyway because we don't have 172 different teachers to translate all these languages. And of course, what happened just a week ago in Minnesota with 100,000 Middle Eastern and African immigrants, the Muslim girls demanded that they be allowed to sew and wear their own dresses to play on the basketball courts to conform to Sharia law.
I got to stop you right there, Frosty. And these points of interest that you are talking about are just absolutely insidious to me because this is America. It used to be known as a melting pot to where we became one, but we're addressing all these different issues. We're letting everybody branch out their own way, and we're not making any pride in our country grow. We're actually hurting this country. And when you had that little story on there about 100,000 Middle Eastern and African immigrants in Minnesota, and the girls are demanding of Muslim faith that they play and wear their own dresses to be on the basketball court, I would put my foot down and say, okay, you develop a league of your own, but not play in our league.
Well, in fact, the school officials are, completely just acquiescing to all of that.
Oh my gosh!
And there was a story on I think it was on CBS. No, it was on ABC. How these Muslim girls they're creating their own dresses to conform with the Quran and the Sharia law right there in Minnesota, so that they can play basketball. And it's totally insane because you can't play basketball in a dress. So. Again, I've written in the past, I did a 3-part series on Get Ready for a Different America. Well, you're seeing it right now. We are now in this extraordinary transformation of America from a cohesive and positive single language, single ethos, essentially single religion, Christianity, to a multicultural quagmire that's going to end up in horrific racial tension, religious tension, and complete destruction of our own ethos. And that's well on its way. And as I've said, for those of you who have never heard this, CAPSWeb, CAPSWEB.org. You need to join it. You need to empower yourself. NumbersUSA.org. Join and empower yourself, because if you don't, and we don't stop this massive immigration flow into this country, legal massive immigration flow, it's legal that's killing this country even worse than the illegal, we're simply going to become victims. And that's why I can't hammer this enough, because that's what's becoming America right now, just a polyglot nation. And if anyone looks overseas, and you look to places that are multicultural like Lebanon, look what happened to Lebanon. Look what happens to France right now in the UK. Look what's happening to Norway and Sweden. Look what's happening to Belgium. I can tell you right now, Belgium will be the first country that completely saw itself completely displaced by its Muslim immigrants, and Sharia law will be enacted in Belgium. If you live another 10 years, and I live another 10 years, we're going to see Belgium as an Islamic state. That is coming as surely as the dawn, Zeb.
You know, Frosty, the obvious question is, why are we, the United States of America, letting this happen? And I've got to salute you. You have been standing up tall in the forefront of this problem for, 10, 12 years? I mean, we've been friends for a long time. And you have told me about this. You've been on this program talking about this problem with illegal immigration and legal immigration and what it's causing. And it just seems like you're kind of like John the Baptist crying in the wilderness. Nobody seems to be paying heed. And just the other day, when I was listening to some of the so-called political candidates running for president being asked about illegal immigration and what they would do on our borders, they're not doing anything but lip service. Nobody is really saying anything except Donald Trump, and then he was asked to apologize.
That's correct. Anybody that's going to stand up, he will be vilified, he or she. I mean, Pamela Geller, who is just as sharp and has run, every kind of campaign to stop Muslim immigration into this country, and she's vilified. But I can tell you this, every person listening this morning, and every American in this country, at some point in the near future, not the far future, but the near future, as Muslim numbers grow up to 20 million from the 7 million they are, as their numbers grow, the violence grows, because this religion is a religion of violence. It lives on violence, it thrives on violence, it thrives on brutality, it thrives on beheadings and behandings. Everything in the Quran is based on violence. And I mean, Muhammad used to cut people's heads off and cut their hands off if he didn't like them. I mean, that's what's happening to our country. And so each of us is going to become, at some point, a victim of this multicultural and religiously chaotic country that is now devolving our ethos, devolving our cohesiveness, and literally creating a very separated America that, in the final analysis, is going to cause us to be in fear wherever we go. Because if you go into all these Muslim lands, you've heard it week in and week out, whether it's in Africa, Boko Haram is going around killing all these girls and putting them into sexual slavery. You look at the Sunnis and the Shiites, and the Kurds are just killing each other whenever they can. That's what we're importing into this country, Zeb. And, I've been talking about this actually for 30 years and writing about it for 30 years. You and I have been talking about it for the last dozen or so. But no one's going to escape this. And that's why I really implore each person listening to absolutely join the organizations that I really suggest to empower yourself. Because otherwise, you will become part of the headlines in your community, whether it's a beheading or your daughter marries a Muslim and then she has turned into a complete non-person, or the violence continues and you'll see more violence in the schools. You'll see it in your communities where these Muslim terrorists literally, or just Muslims themselves take over your communities. They're relentless, Zeb. They're relentless, and they're now in America. And nothing will stop them unless we stop importing them into this country.
Well, and I want to talk just in the time remaining also about the southern border. You and I have talked about this problem on the South Mexican border for years, and we don't get any answers. We don't find out why there is a problem there that can't be solved, why there can't be more administration of closing the borders, making them a lot tougher for the bad guys and people to just come into this country anytime they want. Where are the answers, and why is this just given lip service to, Frosty? You've preached about it for years, but nobody says or does a thing.
Well, the great tragedy for America is, and it remains, that the Republican Party is controlled by, Marriott hotels, by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and by all those people who are pro-growth. They're corporations that want all this cheap labor. Look at the TPP that's just passed. They want to bring in more foreign labor because they want to make more profit, and to hell with the American worker and the American family and the American way of life. Cheapen the labor to the point where it's not a livable wage, but these third world immigrants will work it because it's 10 times. The average Mexican makes less than $5 a day. So when they come up here and they get $5 an hour in cash, they're just happy as all get out. And then you look at the Democrats, and they're absolutely pro-immigration unendingly, because again, the Democrats live in these high gated communities, these ivory towers of unreality, and again, the powerful corporatocracies want more people in this country to feed them, to clothe them, to buy cars for, to have houses for, and to continue to build more structure. And, of course, it all ends with 100 million people added to this country in the next 30 years. I've been beating this drum for all these years, and no one understands the consequences, and certainly not the corporations that don't understand that we have water shortages, we have energy shortages coming at us, and we certainly have resource shortages coming at us. That's why it continues, and that's why it will continue, because the American public, as I came down the coast of California, they're just partying. They're surfing, they're partying, they're laughing, they're drinking, they're having a good time, and yet their state's out of water. And yet the immigration is just pouring into that state at 1,655 immigrants, legal and illegal, every single day of the year. And nobody will stand up and speak. So we, again, as I said, we are going to become a victimized civilization that took on all of the world's problems and the citizens of the world, the refugees of the world, until we too became a refugee nation that simply can't survive on its own and can't exist because we're so torn apart at the seams because of the multicultural language and certainly cultural chaos that's going to hit our country. And it's already happened. I
absolutely say thank you for you and everything you've said and done for the many, many years on this program. And it's so good to have you back on the show. And I wished we had longer, but I'll just say until next Tuesday, God bless you, my dear friend Frosty Wooldridge. And to you, Sandy, and everybody else back there, have a very pleasant Independence Day, 4th of July weekend. Would you please?
Thank you very much, Zeb. And again, I hope that everyone understands that I make sense, that I'm bringing you the facts, and that either we do something or, again, we will become victims of what's happening to us right now. And right now, we're on the victimized path. So I will continue to speak out along with you, and God bless you, and God bless Deanne, and every person listening this morning. This is our country. Let's defend it. Let's stand up. Let's take action, and be fearless, because if you aren't, you're going to become a victim, and your children will become victims, and we got to stop that. So
absolutely.
And let's do the best we can. Jim.
Absolutely. Frosty Wooldridge, Golden, Colorado. Thank you for being on the program this morning. Thank you very much. We've got another guest coming on in just a few moments. Stand by, but I want to remind you that there are big things happening in 100-year celebration of the Idaho Cattle Association annual industry convention and trade show. Oh, my. They are going to have a lot of fun in celebration of 100 years and feeding the future with the Idaho Cattle Association. And tomorrow we're going to have another guest. I think it's going to be Scott Kessel from up in eastern Idaho. cattleman, cowboy. I mean, he knows the livestock business. And we certainly want to remind you, the Riverside Hotel in Boise is the headquarters for the 100-year celebration, industry convention, and trade show for the Idaho Cattle Association, July 14th through the 18th. Don't you miss it. Going to be dandy times. And by the way, too, Rupert 4th of July celebration kicked off this morning at 6 o'clock in the city square with that great big Christmas in July breakfast. 89th annual Rupert 4th of July celebration with the theme Salute Our Troops. And they're going to have entertainment today and food booths. And tonight, of course, a great big fireworks display by the Rupert City Fire and Rescue. Tomorrow, more entertainment, food booths. And then don't forget on the 4th of July, great big 4th of July parade starting over in Rupert at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's a lot of fun, always is. Salute to our troops, 89th annual Rupert 4th of July celebration. Everybody try to be there and enjoy. In just a moment, we're going to welcome to the microphone Ken Oliver Mendez, and he's going to be talking about Donald Trump and Mexico, so stand by for that. Tomorrow night, the Summer Series team roping at Jerome County Fairgrounds. Dave Zanino, and Dave asked me to tell everybody, because of the warm temperatures, they're going to have sign up at 7:30 and rope at 8 tomorrow night. A little bit later, sign up at 7:30, rope at 8. And again, a reminder that tomorrow at 6 p.m., we're going to be over in Rupert for the Idaho Roll Call Memorial Monument, and this is paying tribute to all who have fallen, men and women who gave their life for us as we go into this 4th of July Independence Day weekend. I urge you to be there tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at Scott and C Street in Rupert for that Idaho Roll Call Memorial tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Also, don't forget our friends at Let's Ride. Yes, sirree, Highway 24 between Rupert and Heyburn, where the fun is sold. Oh, they've got all the watercraft. I mean, all the watercraft for the rivers, the lakes, even a puddle. I mean, you can have a lot of fun on the watercraft from Let's Ride. And don't forget, too, they've got all the brand new 4x4s, the ATVs, all the different shapes, colors, everything, and a fantastic service department, too. Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Heyburn, yep, where the fun is sold. You know what? I'm going to call on old Wheels real quick, and we're going to see if we can't hear a good word for the Silver State Stampede.
Follow the crowd to family entertainment at its best. The 2015 Silver State Stampede thunders into Elko July 9th, 10th, and 11th at the Elko Fairgrounds. Kicking off this weekend of rodeo action on Thursday, July 9th is the annual Stampede Kickoff Party, featuring a $10 tri-tip dinner, followed by the Old West Calcutta, Old West bronc riding, the Western Trade Show, and ending the night with live music and dancing to the sounds of the Jeff Palmer Band. The fun continues on Friday and Saturday with a full roster of PRCA rodeo action, followed by the always popular Ring of Fear, and more live music and dancing. You can get your tickets today at Roy's, the J.M. Capriola Company, the Boot Barn, IFA, or the Elko Chamber of Commerce. For more information, check online at www.silverstatestampede.com or call 777-934-6502. Follow the crowd to the 2015 Silver State Stampede, July 9th, 10th, and 11th. Family entertainment at its very best.
I love it. Silver State Stampede in Elko, Nevada. A lot of fun. Hey, don't forget, when you think about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits, always remember Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Number to call for an appointment. Don't put it off. Do it today. Make sure you're protected. 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. The professionals serving you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and say good morning to Ken Oliver Mendez. I don't think I've ever had him on the program before. Good morning, Ken. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Zeb. Good to be with you and your listeners.
Well, thank you.
The opportunity.
Well, I appreciate you being on this close to Independence Day, 4th of July weekend, and all kinds of things going on in the news. You know, I got to tell you something, Ken, and you can tell me I'm all wet, but I'm not advocating that I'm saying Donald Trump should be president, but I will say this. I listened to the initial remarks that he made about Mexico and about what's happening with our border and what's happening with our trade deficit with Mexico and what they want to impose on us. And quite frankly, you can condemn me if you want to, but Ken, I agreed with what he said, and I don't think he should ever give an apology. Go ahead, take it from there.
Well, Zeb, I mean, what Donald Trump said last week when he announced, or a week or so ago, he, resonated with a lot of people. Maybe his use of language wasn't quite right, but when he's talking about problems at the border, about criminal elements coming across the border, he's talking facts there, and that hit a raw nerve. You've talked with some of my colleagues at the Media Research Center. We've covered the mainstream media over 25 years as a watchdog. Well, just last year we added the Spanish language networks, and that's what I've been doing. And this has really created a firestorm, the comments that Trump made, and so much so that it's kind of getting irrational. I mean, Univision, the president of programming and content for Univision, the number one Spanish language network in the country, actually posted on Instagram a image of Donald Trump and the self-confessed mass murderer in Charleston, Dylan Roof. Mm-hmm. And he's not apologized for that. He's not been disciplined for that. And there's been no major ruckus about it. Can you imagine if someone compared Hillary Clinton to a mass murderer? How that would be a media frenzy about it.
Well, Ken, I guess maybe where I'm really confused, and I think I'm fairly intelligent, I think I've covered a lot of what's going on with our border. I do a lot of stories on it. I have talked to many people that have been there. I personally have also been on the border and seen firsthand what's going on with the abuse of our border system, protecting our sovereign country, the United States of America, and people are allowed to walk over. We don't know who's coming in. We don't know for what purpose. We don't know for what dangers they might impose on us. And Trump had the audacity and, quite frankly, the backbone to stand up and call it like it is. And then you use the word firestorm because certain people are upset about it. Well, I don't care about certain people. I think this man hit a nerve that maybe needs to be looked into much more so. And maybe other politicians, if they want to run for public office and serve us, maybe they ought to follow in the same suit as Trump.
Yeah, that's right. I think there's no doubt about it. The reason why mass amnesty has not been approved in Congress and why President Obama waited till after the elections was the American people don't support that. They want a secure border. And it's very clear that, people are upset about the criminal elements that are crossing the border, the lack of control, the lack of sovereignty of the United States. Just like Mexico has a right to control its border, we have the right. So, I mean, that's really, the American people aren't convinced that we have border security, especially after what happened last summer, as you know, with the unaccompanied minors. So I think actually this whole thing, the firestorm, has actually helped Donald Trump in the polls.
Do you think, Ken, and I value your knowledge on this, but do you think Univision, the Mexican government, and public opinion will weigh so heavily on Donald Trump, the worst hairdo in all politics, and quite frankly, a man that can pay for his own campaign and not have to solicit any money from anybody? Do you think the pressure will be on him so that he will weaken and apologize? I hope not.
All of us who know over the years seen Donald Trump, and certainly there's no indication of him weakening at all on that. And I think that's a very valuable, personally, apart from our judgment on how he expresses certain things, but I think the substance of the debate needs to be had, and that's a very valuable and important debate that needs to be had as the presidential candidates go into that debate beginning next month in August, or a month and a half from now. That first debate on August 6th. So, Yeah, I think it's he's not going to back down, and that's going to create a good pressure, as a lot of conservatives see it, a good pressure to do real border security.
And what did you think about, honestly, Ken, Univision saying that they're going to demand an apology, and NBC firing Donald Trump? I mean, this is so ridiculous. Trump could probably buy both those networks, NBC and Univision, but, they're firing him. Actually, I think it's putting more fodder over on Trump's side than it is hurting them. What are your thoughts?
Well, NBC, that's the latest, right? Yesterday, NBC announced that they're not going to carry Miss USA and Miss Universe, which
right.
NBC has worked or co-owns with Trump. And, they've created they've got all upset about these comments he made, which he said he loves Mexicans and he recognizes they're good people. Among the unauthorized illegal immigrants that come over, he recognizes they're good people and he recognizes a lot of good things, but he, is insisting we need to know who's coming across the border. We need to stop. Why are we having unauthorized immigrants in our jails, etc.? And I think it's really actually been helping him. Obviously, on the business side, these networks are cutting their ties with him. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen to Miss Universe and Miss USA, which is going to be televised. Usually they're televised in July. So yeah, that's and so you see this ruckus over NBC cutting their ties, but why aren't more people upset about a Univision president of programming comparing Trump to a mass murderer?
Yeah. And then here is MSNBC and a byproduct of NBC, and they carried the likes of lying, and he did, Brian Williams, and the absolute lowlife, Al Sharpton, for what he does. He's never met a problem that he didn't make money off of. I mean, how can they maintain their affiliation with two of those people and then denounce Trump? It's so ridiculous.
That's a very good point. There's a lot of hypocrisy in all this, and it's very unfortunate to see how special interest groups can have such an outsized influence on some of these networks. It doesn't make sense.
Ken, I'm assuming by your name, and I shouldn't make assumptions, but I will, that you have Mexican and Spanish ties with your last name. Is that correct?
Yeah, and for what I do at Media Research Center, it's a wonderful tradition on my mom's side, actually. She's from Puerto Rico, so that tradition is to carry your father's name and your mother's name.
I see.
You know the whole family. So Oliver is my dad from Illinois, and Mendez is my mom from Puerto Rico and Cuba, actually. So not Mexican, but definitely Spanish-speaking. And so I've worked in Spanish-language media a long time, and that's why Brent Bozell asked me to help do something which has never been done before, which is actually hold the Spanish-language media in this country accountable to the same standards we do to the rest of the media.
That is excellent, and I have the highest respect for Mr. Bozell. But Ken, if you were a presidential candidate today, and you had to address these questions about illegal immigration and amnesty and all the other problems that our immigration is causing the United States of America right now, and really no clear-cut plan or approach as to how to make it better for everybody, what would you do? I mean, this thing is so out of control. What would you do?
Well, Zeb, that's something I haven't, as far as what we need to do, I'm going to leave that to the leaders, and that need to actually step up to the plate. And there are leaders who are doing that. Mike Pence, when he was in Congress, had a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Chairman Goodlatte is working on that, Bob Goodlatte of Virginia. So I think we do need to focus more on what are the Republican leadership and what kind of bills are they working on. I've just seen recently that there is some move on piece-by-piece legislation to shore up security and deal with some of these issues. But I wouldn't be at this point. I'm not in the place of talking like a candidate.
I respect that, but I think you will agree with me that when you look at now, what have we got? 937 Republicans running for office of the presidency right now, and then on the other side, you've got a couple of also-rans underneath Hillary, and quite frankly, the Republicans are falling all over themselves, slobbering like a bunch of mad dogs, but they're not really saying anything. I'm getting a little sick and tired of somebody not doing or saying anything except Donald Trump. Would you agree with that or disagree?
That's why he's resonating. That's why, I think there's so much to admire in Donald Trump's style and his ability to not use that language we typically hear of a politician, which is not clear and in these talking points. And he's cutting through. He's cutting to the core of really troubling issues, and we know how serious the fiscal situation is of the country, the security situation of the country, and that's why I think he's going to contribute a lot to the quality of the competition for president.
Ken, there was a last question here, but I know you've heard it. There were a lot of people that when Donald Trump decided to throw his hat in the ring, automatically many of the so-called political pundits and talk show hosts and TV hosts, etc., they called him the clown prince of politics. They made fun of him and everything. I have noticed, and tell me I'm wrong, in the last week to 10 days, I think a lot of that silly clown attitude has gone by the wayside, and I think they're kind of looking over their shoulder like old Satchel Paige did, because they're a little bit afraid that Trump's gaining on them.
You know what I think the people are seeing, the American people are seeing, they're seeing a patriot, a very successful, competent patriot who deserves trust in many respects for his respect for his accomplishments and his willingness to get out there and step up to the plate and propose solutions for the country.
Okay. Well, I want to tell you, you are an excellent speaker, and I'd love to have you back. Ken Oliver Mendez, thank you so much for taking the time this morning to come on my program.
It's been my pleasure.
Well, it's been mine, and I certainly wish you and your family a very happy and safe 4th of July Independence Day weekend. God bless you, sir. Thank you so much.
God bless. Happy 4th. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Nice man right there, and I hope I get a chance to have him back on the program. Very well spoken. Ken Oliver Mendez talking about Donald Trump. They're not laughing at him anymore. I don't think they are. Sure, there's going to be those that are scared, and those that will always jab when they're really down deep, getting a little ice feeling in the pit of their stomach about how powerful a person can be. And Donald Trump has spoken very honestly about Mexico. He's spoken very honestly about illegal immigration. And he has stepped on a lot of toes. And so the other side, the Univisions, the NBCs, and the others are trying to do the best they can to demonize him even more. And honestly, I think it's helping his entire cause. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. But I want to remind you right now it's time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you by Duck Uglies at 163 West Highway 30 in Burley. And by the way, the employees are really, really happy with Jack Bates, the owner of Duck Uglies, because he's going to give them Saturday, the 4th of July off. So they're going to be closed on the 4th of July, but get there the night before on Friday night, and that great ribeye special with 4 shrimp, baked potato, and Texas toast is going to be served, and it is phenomenal. Great entertainment, great food at Duck Uglies, 163 West Highway 30 in Burley. And right now, here's the weather.
Here's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Looks like this high-pressure system is going to be sticking around throughout at least the next week, possibly the next 10 days, and it means it's going to be sunny and hot. Partly to mostly sunny skies for today. High right around 100. Expect a low right near 67. For Wednesday, as we kick off the first day of July, sunny and 97, and it's going to remain pretty much steady. Highs are going to be in the upper 90s to low 100s. Lows are going to be in the low to mid-60s for the next week. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you very much. And with that weather forecast being brought to you by Duck Uglies, 163 West Highway 30 in Burley. Now, they're going to be closed on the 4th of July only so that families can all spend time with families. So get there on Friday this week, and don't forget the big ribeye special. Woo! Good food, great entertainment at Duck Uglies, Highway 30 in Burley. All right, your turn, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Guess who just walked in the door? It's Deanna. I didn't expect her here this quick. And calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Wheels, have you got a big hammer over there and like a sledgehammer or something? Have you got all the equipment fixed? I mean, like, have you been in there pounding and kicking and swearing and running over with the wheels and everything?
I kind of called Gina and stuff like that, and she helped me through it, and, you know, just the things that I necessarily don't know that much. She helped me out on it and helped me figure it out. So.
Don't you love it when mechanization goes awry?
To be honest, not really, because it's like I love doing my job the best that I can, and it's like when things like that happen, I don't even know how to say it.
I do, because I was there years and years and years ago, a long time ago, at a radio station in Twin that I started for, and they were always breaking down. None of the equipment would work. You'd punch a button, and the button would sit there and develop a smiley face and go, "Are you kidding? I'm not going to play that." And it was just absolutely a nightmare. And so I can have empathy with you to the point where you sit there and you go, "Ah!" You just want to run out the door.
I know, and it's like, I mean, I usually have the music going, and today I was just off the ball.
I was 35 miles away, but I could see the look on your face, and it was not one of "let's have a party."
Yeah, seriously, and to be honest, right now, I actually apologize to the callers and everything, because it's like, you know, when things like that happen and they call in because there's stuff going on, you know, and they ask, "Oh, what's going on?" You know, I can't really tell them much because I just know how to run the board. Yeah,
you're doing all right. You're doing all right. But those things happen, and, you know, for the general public, there's nothing worse than having glitches and grinches in different parts of electronics for a radio broadcast. Anyway, that's great. I'm glad everything's back on an even keel. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to ask you, honestly, audience, I got about 10 minutes left in this segment. Did it bother you to have the White House, our White House, bathed in the rainbow colors of perverted sex abnormality for the gays, lesbians, and transgenders? That really got to me. That really offended me. And I'm going to speak out about it and say no. You know, think about this. For sexual tendencies, they went ahead and bathed our White House in the rainbow colors. You know, with all of our soldiers coming back and all the wars and everything else, did they ever bathe the White House in the red, white, and blue of our flag? But they put up the perverted rainbow colors for gay pride. That really sickened me. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
It ticks you off. What do you think it did to me?
Well, I don't know if a lot of people looked at it the way I did, but you know what? For someone's perverted sexual abnormalities, they would go and bathe the White House in rainbow colors. Man, that was as low as it gets.
Well, I've seen a lot of stuff, and this is the most disgraceful thing I've ever seen. A so-called President of the United States let happen. I hope it never happens again.
Well, Al, let me say this. You probably remember better than I. You're a little bit older, but I don't think that they've ever changed the outside facade of the White House to be in any color for anything in the past. Am I wrong on that? Help me.
No, you're not wrong. This is the first time I've ever seen this happen, and I'm pushing 82 years old, so When they come up with those stuff and they've always done it before, that's a crock and they know it.
Well, it was so offensive to me to think that this president who has lied, and I'm not going to beat around the bush, he's lied. When he was running for office in 2008, he said marriage should be always a marriage proposal and contract between a man and a woman. And he stood up and said this on all the newscasts. And then he said it again in 2010. And then the money and all the left got to him, and he started changing and transitioning his thoughts. And now the White House, our house, your house, my house, everybody's house that represents the United States of America was bathed in the rainbow colors of gay, lesbian, and transgender sex. That's pitiful.
I know it. That's the way we're going to go until we start deciding how we're going to elect the people that are supposed to be in our office taking care of our business. If they don't want to tell us the truth, kick them out. Thank the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Al. I appreciate your remarks. Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend.
4th of July weekend in Rupert, and by golly, I know some great folks over in Rupert that are saying, come on over and enjoy our city. Magic Valley Carpet, 613 D Street in Rupert. All your flooring needs, carpet, hardwood, vinyl, laminate tiles. They've been over there with 35 years of experience, expert professional installation, Magic Valley Carpet. Thank you very much. Haskin Insurance Service. Don't forget them at 629 Fremont Street in Rupert. And that's, of course, Mike and Dustin and Dawn and Terry. And they want you to just kind of pause and remember what makes this country great. Over 50 years combined experience in home, auto, farm, life, or health. Haskin Insurance Service serving you. And Doc's Pizza, 514 6th Street in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, fantastic pizza. Cinnamon sticks are delicious. And you're going to remember Doc's Pizza for a long time. Just the right amount of toppings, just the right amount of delicious. They're going to be closed on the 4th, but they want to wish everybody to have a family-oriented day. Don't forget Doc's Pizza in Rupert. Wonderful folks. All right, your turn. Give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. And let me know your thoughts. Talked a little bit about the rainbow colors at the White House. Talked about Donald Trump. We've talked about the cameraman that went out in San Diego and was shocked because there were many people that just absolutely didn't have any information about how great this country really is, and they wanted to take down our United States flag. And we've also talked a little bit about the FBI setting up command centers across the United States for this Independence Day, 4th of July weekend. Give me your calls, give me your thoughts before we go to the news. 436-2244. A couple of quick thoughts here on something else. I got a little bit of a laundry list of different things that Obama has 82 more weeks to go in office. And the laundry list of worries that people are concerned about, what he's going to do with his pen and his phone and executive orders. And the list includes climate change, the Iran nuclear deal, which absolutely is horrendous, the Islamic State, and they're not considering trying to end ISIS in weeks or months, but they're saying it should take and may take years. Most of the experts in the military say no. If we put forth the effort, we'd run them out of Dodge City in no time at all. The trade programs, criminal justice programs, government spending, tax changes, gun control, and immigration are all the hot spots that Obama is sure to make his executive orders with his pen and his phone much more dangerous for you and me. We're going to talk to Dr. Ken Turner in just a very few minutes, Dr. History, with his segment coming up at 10:06. But right now, we're going to sit and listen to a little tune going into CBS News. I'll be back in 6 minutes. Don't you go away. Oh, my. my, hour number 3 already. I love a little bit of this overcast. It's helping keep that old sun off our heads a little bit as we draw temperatures closer and closer to that century mark again. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and all 7 locations. Really, really great folks. Thank you so much. Along with some of our advertisers, Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Locally owned and operated, 734-6969. And Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Everything for the farm, the home, and the ranch at Valleywide Home and Ranch. What is going on at the Chadwick Sports Grill today for a special for lunch, 139 West Main in Burley? They're going to have, listen to this, sweet and sour pork served over white rice with veggies super salad. Ooh, it's going to be good. Always is. Great specials, great menu items at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. Oh, and by the way, guess what's coming up in just a matter of weeks? The Oakley Pioneer Days. My goodness sakes, rodeo and car racing and a huge parade, fun activities at the park, the Goose Creek Runoff, all of this and much, much more for you, the family, to enjoy. One of the greatest celebrations in the state of Idaho, Oakley Pioneer Days, July 14th through the 18th. And I'll guarantee you, Brady Manning and the rest of the crew, they're going to be coming on the program talking about a lot of activities you need to be a part of at Oakley Pioneer Days, July 14th through the 18th. Right now, it's time for one of my favorite segments on the radio, and that's, of course, my dear friend, Dr. Ken Turner, known as Dr. History, brought to you by Minnecasia Sales at 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Number to call, 878-2091. We'll have more about Minnecasia Sales, but right now, good morning to Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb.
Why are we getting you on that one? I think we got a different mic. Let's try that one.
Okay. How's that?
Yeah, I think they switched microphones in the holder on me.
All right.
Okay, well, we've got that one taken care of. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's a nice day out there. Sunny, bright, shiny.
Yeah, and
crops
sweaty.
are looking good.
Sweaty.
It is.
Sweaty,
it's hot.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be for a while.
Now, what are you going to talk about today? I mean, certainly you've got old stories of the Old West.
This guy, you're going to know right off the bat, and most people are going to know about him because there's been a movie about him with John Wayne.
Uh-huh.
And there's a song that mentions his trail.
Okay.
Am I giving you some hints?
Davy Crockett?
John Chisholm.
Oh, John Chisholm.
Yeah.
Yes.
John Chisholm. Men called him the Jingle Bob King of the Pecos.
Okay.
And that he was. He was from the tip of his scruffy boots, worn and faded trousers stuffed inside his boots, and had a thin-looking face. I got a picture I'll show you here in a minute. Kind of a prominent nose, dark brown hair, bushy mustache. He was every inch acknowledged master of a cattle domain that was actually larger than a lot of the eastern states.
Now, I got to ask you a question. Was it in New Mexico or Texas? I'm trying to remember.
Well, it's actually, as I go along here, I think it's actually part of both.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, John Chisholm was not a gunman. He didn't carry a gun. He rarely packed a six-shooter since cattle was his business. And so he wasn't in the business of killing people.
Yeah.
So anyway, he qualifies for this story today because of his personal speed or accuracy, or not because of that, with a weapon. He just didn't do that.
Okay.
So things like that just didn't matter to him. But because he associated with men who did live by the gun and whose lives were, for better or worse, tied together with his. For example, Billy the Kid, Pat Garrett, and enough other outlaws and lawmen that these guys were frequent visitors to his ranch near Roswell, New Mexico.
Really?
So he had a lot of visitors on both sides of the law.
Well, was he a big guy? Was he a little guy? What kind of a guy was he?
I'm not sure if it actually tells me how big he was. I'm going to show you a picture. Of course, nobody can see, but he looks like a cowboy, doesn't he?
Yeah, with a hat on, he would be. John Chisholm.
Yeah.
And you're right. John Wayne did portray that individual.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but actually, Madison County, Tennessee, was where he was born, the second of 5 children. He was born August 15th, 1824. So that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But he was 13. The family moved to Lamar County in East Texas, near the Oklahoma line. Now, over the years, he tried driving cattle into Arkansas, Louisiana, but the insects and the mud and the swamps and the river stopped him, and he really didn't do very good at that. It was kind of a losing proposition.
It kind of makes you wonder. He was born and raised in what state? You just said Illinois, right?
Yeah. Well, Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
And to go all the way to Texas way back in those early years with the Indian raids, the Comanches and everything, why would a family want to move there? It makes you wonder.
You know, I have wondered that as people moved west and were right on the edge of civilization, the dangers with...
Really?
But they did. They just kept moving west. But anyway, he ran twice for county clerk, got elected the second time, but gave it up when he met an Eastern financier named Stephen Fowler.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this guy was a financial guy, and he looked Chisholm over and said he would invest in cattle if he could find someone who knew anything about the animals. Well, Chisholm, of course, knew a lot. So, in the spring of 1854, he and Fowler launched a 10-year partnership. Now, the partners grazed livestock near Fort Worth, Texas, and for the first, of course it wasn't there then, and for the first 5 years everything went good. Then came the Civil War, the collapse of the Confederacy, Indian raids, and a lot of the cowboys went to war.
Okay.
And then drought. Fowler wasn't sure things would ever be the same again, so Chisholm bought him out. And he moved to present-day San Angelo. Now, do you know where that is?
I do. I've been there.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's in Texas, right?
Yep, San Angelo, Texas. Yep.
Okay. So now he's 40 years old.
They have a great stock show and rodeo there.
Okay. So now he's 40 years old. He turned his face westward. He had a brother that looked over the New Mexico Pecos River, thought it looked good, and talked old John into moving there.
I see.
Now, Chisholm established his headquarters at Bosque Grande. Now, does that sound familiar?
I think the pronunciation is Bosque Grande.
Bosque Grande.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, it's
I could be wrong on that, but
30
that's
or
what
40
I've heard.
miles downriver from Fort Sumner. He sold stock to the Bosque Redondo Indian Reservation. And
Love to have those words in the story, don't you?
I love it. Stumble.
It's all right.
Yeah. Anyway, he sold a bunch of cattle.
Yeah, right.
And to small ranchers and miners, and government contracts were a really good source of income for him,
right.
For the military posts. Now, in addition, Chisholm would put together herds for Charles Goodnight, that we've talked about before.
Yep.
He was a nearby rancher who made yearly drives to Dodge City and points north. However, in rounding up this assortment of cattle, Chisholm did not always pay proper attention to the brands.
Oh, in other words?
Too often, he simply kind of absorbed another rancher's cattle on the verbal promise that the cattle would be paid once the steers were all marketed. And sometimes these, he would have a poor memory. But anyway, he had this agreement, and John Chisholm had a strong tendency toward, like I say, being absent-minded. But in one particular instance, a irate rancher tracked him down. Never had any trouble collecting. Old John just grinned and wrote him out a check.
Wrote him out a check?
Yeah.
He didn't want to have a fight.
No, he knew.
Sure, he had obtained 1,000 head of cattle, but that's okay.
Wrong brands, but hey, So now we're here in 1875. Chisholm moved his headquarters to near present-day Roswell, New Mexico, and here he built a house called the Square House. It was 8 small rooms surrounding a patio, and later he replaced it with what he called the Long House. Now, this was an adobe structure 148 feet long and 39 feet wide. This is a big house.
Ooh, well, I would say so. Yeah.
Now, to provide fresh water, he dug what he called a drinking ditch, which makes me a little nervous, but from the South Spring, which was a tributary of the Pecos, to his home. And it flowed beneath the central hallway in the Long House.
Wow.
And then curled around and watered his crops and his trees.
Really?
So that was their drinking water.
Wow.
But
what year was that, by the way?
1875.
75.
Yep. But the dining room table sat 26 people, and it was rare when any chair stood empty.
Boy, I was going to say that'd be pretty lonesome at breakfast in the morning if nobody showed up.
But tramping through his house at one time or another came governors, legislators, intellectuals, businessmen, army officers, common soldiers, buffalo hunters, outlaws, sheriffs, gold seekers.
Including the other neighbors that were looking for their cattle.
Hey, have you seen my cows? So now he had a niece, 16-year-old Sally, and he kind of had a crush on her, but she was like the perfect hostess.
Really?
I mean, she would take care of the people that came for dinner and everything.
Okay.
So, anyways, this might be a good time for a break. You want to do
it
that?
would be. I'd like to just come in and talk about Mini-Cash sales real quick, because Zach and the rest of the crew, they really, really appreciate what Dr. History is and does right here on Zebeth Ranch. And it's a great time to install new carpeting and maybe even a new metal roof. Hey, all you have to do is go into Mini-Cash Sales and see everything that they've got available for you. All the western windows and the carpet like I just talked about. They are a huge supporter of this area and, of course, can help you. Also with the western windows and all the tartar gates and panels. The best. Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach and the rest of the crew serving you and wishing you a very happy 4th of July weekend. Mini-Cash Sales. You're on, Doc.
I'm on. I knew. You gave me the look. So here we have this luxurious home. Now, you would expect John Chisholm to have an expensive room, office, really nice, leather chairs, all that. But instead, his office was his bedroom. It was, neat, plain. In addition to a small bed, he kept a safe, a walnut writing desk, and a big dictionary. That was it.
Now, wait a minute. You never did say if he got married.
Well, that's what I was going to get to.
I figured you were.
He was not a complicated man, and he never married.
He never married.
Nope. Now, he had a lifelong reputation as a ladies' man, and several females at one time or another almost slipped the noose around his neck, but he always pulled away just in time.
Yeah.
So, never married.
Never married.
I mean, his first love really was this Chisholm Empire, and it was huge. It extended 150 miles up and down the Pecos River, from mountain range to mountain range, almost a fifth of New Mexico at one time.
A lot of people think about the King Ranch as being so big and so elaborate and everything, but this guy Chisholm was pretty big too.
Oh, he was huge.
Yeah.
Now, one reason he held it is he controlled the water. Well, in this case, the river.
Ooh.
Of course, and he never paid anyone for all this open range, but he claimed it and owned it by right of occupation. Basically.
Right of occupation. So, in other words, I'm sitting here and I ain't getting up.
And don't come in on me.
Yeah, okay.
So, anyway, at the height of his glory, 70 to 80,000 cattle grazed on Chisholm land.
And a lot of them weren't even his.
That's right. Well, a few here and there, But his rail brand along the steer's left flank from the shoulder to the hip, that was his brand. He was best known for the Jingle Bob brand.
Yeah.
Now, that's an ear notch, right?
The Jingle Bob is in relation to spurs.
Okay.
The Jingle Bob on spurs.
Okay.
Yep.
But then they also did a technique where they cut a notch in the ear.
Yeah.
And so the ear flopped in a certain manner.
Right.
But anyway, there were the days when men rode for the brand, and they were proud of their association, and they stood by the boss, and the boss stood by them. I mean, it was a unique loyalty. They were good guys.
Yeah.
And
sure, they were stealing the neighbor's cattle.
Sure, they were working together. But when a Chisholm trail hand was shot and killed, John nodded his head, and the murderer's horse was led out from beneath the cottonwood tree at the end of a rope.
Yep.
So they did their own locking.
Justice.
Yeah.
Frontier justice.
Yeah. Now, although John Chisholm did tolerate small-time thefts, big-time wrestling was a different matter.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Indians were always a nuisance, often a menace, and the Chisholm cowhands fought fire with fire and lead with lead, and John and his range boss, a guy named Jim Highsaw, rode into El Paso on the trail of some stolen cattle and found their beeves ready to be slaughtered.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Highsaw, reputedly a kind of a dangerous guy, he charged small rancher Dick Smith with the thefts and promptly shot him.
Oh, my.
So, anyway, but of all of Chisholm's trouble...
And nothing happened?
No.
Oh, okay.
He'd stolen cattle.
Yeah.
He deserved to be shot.
But Chisholm had done that himself.
Yeah, but he's a good guy.
Oh.
Or bigger. I don't
see.
know. But, all the troubles he had, the worst he had was the Lincoln County War. Now, I think
that's where Billy the Kid comes in.
Right, and I'm just going to mention a little bit about that.
Okay.
The West had its share of grassland wars, and they had a lot of feuds and one thing and another, an untold number of deaths. But by most accounts, the violence was pretty small, involving a few people and sometimes a sheriff or two, but the effects rarely had regional consequences like the Johnson County War. Now, for sheer bad blood and stupidity and one thing and another, this was dumb because the Johnson County War in Wyoming, sometimes known as the War on Powder River, it was between the two big cattlemen and the little cowboy. So really two factions that should have been working together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a dumb war with loss of life.
Really?
But anyway, as I mentioned, John, as time went on, John it kind of became open season on John Chisholm's cattle. Rustlers all over the territory picked
how
away.
many thousand head? 85,000?
70 to 80,000.
70 to 80,000 head of cattle.
And how do you keep track of
that? That is the $64,000 question.
Yeah. So in desperation, Chisholm wrote Governor Lew Wallace and recommended that Pat Garrett, a former buffalo hunter, be deputized to guard specific crossing points along the Pecos, and Garrett be empowered to intercept the outlaws and, if necessary, kill them. And, of course, you know what's coming.
Yep.
Out of this effort came the election of Pat Garrett as sheriff, his rendezvous with destiny less than 2 years later when he surprised Billy the Kid in Fort Sumner bedroom, left him dead with a bullet in the heart. And we've discussed the questionability of that whole story.
I have a tendency to lean towards Billy the Kid was not killed by Pat Garrett.
Well, there's too many unanswered questions.
Variables.
Yes, variables. So, meanwhile, up in the territorial capital, the corrupt Santa Fe ring with Senator Tom Catron sought to bring Chisholm to his knees. They hated John for his Pecos power, for his independence from political control, and various lawsuits charged Chisholm with fraud. And in January of 1878, the authorities jailed him, actually put him in jail for several weeks in Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Right.
In a jail there. Now, during his imprisonment, he wrote an explanation and a vindication of his actions. Now, this actual remarkable document is still in existence.
Really?
Yeah, and it reveals Chisholm as basically a straightforward man. He trusted some old friends much more than he should have. After his release, he sold much of his stock to a group called Hunter and Evans, a St. Louis firm that had interest throughout the West. I don't know if you've heard of them.
While he was jailed, did he have or hire his own attorney? Did he have his own attorneys working for him?
You know, it doesn't mention anything about
it sounds like he tried to represent himself.
It almost does. Yeah. So basically, John made a good decision. Times were changing. The days of the free public land and open range, that was pretty much gone. And I'm sure the sheep, they were moving in about this time too.
I don't know if it says that in the information that you have, but really when you talk about, let's say, 70,000 head of cattle, how many people worked for John Chisholm?
That's a good question. I don't know that, but it had to be. Well, you take a cattle drive, they would a lot of times have 2,000 head with
2,000 to 3,000 head.
Yeah, about 15 to 20 to 25 men.
Yeah.
So they were responsible for a lot of cows.
But you would think as big of land value as he controlled with his ranch and all of his holdings and everything, that they would have looked at something and said, like, Section A is managed by so-and-so and this many cowboys, Section B, this many cowboys and managed by... You couldn't possibly sit in one location and manage that many cattle on that ranch.
Right, and just like is today, a lot of these big outfits have a foreman, or several foremen.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's probably a line of a chain of command.
Basically, the story about John Chisholm, don't you think that he got so big that basically he was out of control?
I think so.
Yeah.
And again, with the ranges being closed more and more. But anyway, in 1883, a malignant tumor sprouted on the left side of his neck, grew to the size of a baseball, and kind of tilted his head to the right. And when he could stand the discomfort and the pain no longer, he went to Kansas City, Missouri for an operation.
Really?
Now, the doctor said the operation was a success, and although in great pain, John started for home, and he made it as far as Las Vegas, again, New Mexico, when another tumor appeared just that quick.
Oh, wow.
Now, this one grew large almost overnight and just was so painful. Well, in desperation, he returned to Kansas City, but this time the doctor said he was too weak to operate. They gave him some medicine, but, nothing helped. And Chisholm could not speak above a whisper now because it was in his neck. And with the spark of life flickering, he hoped the mineral baths at Eureka Springs, some kind of mineral bath deal there in Arkansas might help. Well, they didn't, and he died on December 22nd, 1884. And with his death at the age of 60, a lot that was, good and fine and noble and stubborn and persevering in his world, in that world, kind of died with him. And perhaps his best testament was the cowboys he left behind, because he trained a lot of like we said, foremans and cowboys. But up until a few short years ago, there was still a lot of men around who were proud to say they once worked for the Jingle Bob brand, and they had ridden the river with John Chisholm.
You know, when you think about it, I've only got a minute left here, but when he passed, how did he, or did he, have a will that would be given out or disseminated to other members of his family, maybe a brother, a sister, or something like that?
No, and I have no information on that.
Wow.
Where he had no children, and I don't know how small the outfit...
I mean, all of a sudden, you're going to possibly turn over to the state of New Mexico and Texas a $1,000 or 1,000-acre ranch and all those holdings? Wow.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how much he sold off before he died.
Yeah.
And it may have been down to it wasn't that big by the time he died. I don't know.
Holy cow. John Chisholm.
John Chisholm.
Real life
guy.
cowboy, and in the films portrayed by John Wayne.
Yeah. Yep. Going to have to go watch that again.
Yeah. And what was John Wayne's wife? He was married in the movie, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, John Wayne was married in the movie.
Well, they have to do that.
Yeah, it looked better.
It does.
Anyway, John Chisholm, that's a good story. You ought to do some checking on who really benefited from the estate.
I'll do some research on that because I'm kind of curious, too, what happened to all that
That's
land.
a lot of money.
A lot of, millions and millions, really.
Yeah, really.
So.
And somebody had told me, and correct me if you find this to be wrong, that a lot of the John Chisholm estate went to state parks and recreation land. Is that...
And again, I don't know that. I mean, it was such a huge area, 150 miles.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty big.
Along the river.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Well, Doc, you did it again. A great story. I appreciate it. And, of course, Dr. History is brought to you by Mini-Cassia Sales at 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach and the rest of his very, very talented crew. Everything you need right there. Spring remodeling projects, summer remodeling projects, lumber, windows with the Western windows, everything at Mini-Cassia Sales. Okay, now the question of the week is, what are we going to talk about next week?
Well, that's a good question.
You know what I have a question on?
What's that?
And I asked you this one other time, and we only got a minute here. What about money and how it was handled in the Old West? You said he wrote out a check. What about the banks, and what about checks and the financial standing in the Old West? I mean, what about the money situation? How did they write a check? How was it honored at various banks as they traveled? I mean, what about the money situation?
Well, actually, when I read that and he said he wrote out a check, I was a little bit surprised at that.
Yeah.
Because I know that on the cattle drives, they would have arrangements along the drive with certain store people or whatever that the trail boss could have credit at.
Really?
And so I'm really not sure, if they... I know they at times carried... a lot of money with them.
Why don't you do a little program on the induction, if you would, into our society of checks in the Old West and how they banked and how they got... Remember on Bonanza, they were always talking about going to Virginia City and getting a draw and all that. I'd be interested in the financial standing of the Old West.
That's a good idea, because there's a little gray area there,
And did Ben Cartwright's checks ever bounce?
That's an even better question.
I got to run. Doc, God bless you,
You
man.
have a good
Thank
day.
you. Don't forget, too, that on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days, and it's brought to you by two wonderful businesses, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. Right now, they've got the Everything for Babies and Toddlers sale, 20 to 70% off. Wow! 1308 Overland in Burley. And, of course, Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland in Burley. Save money on surgery procedures like colonoscopies, hand surgeries, arthroscopic knee surgeries. Call them. Find out more, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. I'll be right back. Don't you go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244. or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, welcome back into our last half hour, and we're very, very blessed to have with us a dear friend of mine. I'll introduce him here in just a second. Don't forget Vicky's Country Garden and a show on Thursdays called Gardening for Idiots, named after me. 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Vicky's Country Garden with everything you need. Check the reader board or give Vicky a call. See what's on special. Don't forget they've got new shipments of bark in, decorative rocks, soil aids, chemicals, everything at Vicky's Country Garden. 185 South, 600 West of Paul. You stop in and see her today. Also, I want to quickly remind you about our friends at Dixon Oil. You better believe it's 602 South 2nd and Rupert. Oh, my goodness, they've been in business since 1951, and they can take care of you with the best of gas, fuel, heating, propane, everything. Daryl and the crew at Dixon Oil, they've been on our program many, many times. They wish you and your family a great, safe Independence Day, 4th of July weekend. Be safe and stop at Dixon Oil. Jack Euler, dear friend, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
What are you all smiles about? You look like that cat that ate the mouse all of a sudden. My goodness.
I don't know. You know, there's not a lot to smile about these days.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, I am just astounded.
When you pick up the paper, and you and I have both talked privately about the Times News, we both have a...
I quit taking it.
I didn't, because I want to see what they're going to do next. But the headline in the paper this past Sunday, was Climate Change Threatens South Hills Crossbill. And they gave it a complete front page story and then a middle section to the story. Just one more item all the time, jabbing, poking away at taking away human beings away from the equation and turning everything back to nature.
That's completely true, and the thing they don't talk about in that story is how many there used to be. It never talks about.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, 5 years ago there was this many. 10 years ago there was this many.
Yeah.
50 years ago there was this many.
Yeah.
They just say they're threatened because of the change in our climate.
Yeah, and that is so ambiguous and so far-reaching, and I mean, they give so much credence to it. And the paper itself, the Times News, whether it's a human story like with the refugees coming in from Syria, the Muslims, or whether it's something to do with illegal aliens and immigration, or now climate change threatens South Hills Crossbill. I got to be honest with you. Up until I read the story, I'd never heard of the crossbills. I thought maybe the bird had his bills crossed like that because he ran into a tree. I didn't know.
I knew about the bird, but the thing that I look at is the money that is spent. And whose money is spent on that guy doing what he's doing and that group of people he has up there.
You and me.
It comes out of the government. Yes, he's from the University of Wyoming or somewhere else, some other university, but that's your and my tax dollars that is paying for this type of stuff that is cutting our own throats.
When you say that, cutting our own throat, Jack, and let's be really honest about this, these are very organized movements, whether it's the sage grouse, whether it's the salmon issue, whether it's the spotted owl, whether it's the Delta smelt. All of those issues are designed and combined to get you and me off the landscape.
That's completely true. And I read one a week ago, I don't remember where, but it talked about, again, getting the cattle off the land. We used a little bit of this in Washington, D.C. on the sage grouse issue, with taking the sage grouse issue into our defense department. And we have part of the bill, we have the bill in the defense bill in Washington, D.C., that the sage grouse will not be listed for at least 10 years, because if they list it, all these Air Force bases out over the desert will be closed down, and it's going to affect our defense because Mountain Home Air Force Base, Las Vegas, the one in Ogden, and there's one in Albuquerque, and all of those fly over the desert, bombing ranges, and that type of thing. And that's why it's in the defense bill. And I had a good talk with Senator Brackett about this after he got back from D.C. And we got it through the House, and we think it's going to get through the Senate. But he has concern about whether the president will sign it because it's in the defense bill, and it says that there's money in there for Guantanamo Bay, and he doesn't like Guantanamo Bay.
Jack, you have been, and I've said this every program you've been on, but I'll say it again for the benefit of those that maybe have tuned in for the first time. You have for 20 years been beating your head against the wall on this wolf reintroduction issue, fighting the environmentalists, fighting the Sierra Club, fighting the defenders of wildlife, fighting all these people. 20 years, but you've got something to show for it, because if it hadn't been for you, Jack Euler, we'd be in a worse state of affairs than we are today. But when you look at the wolf issue and you look at the sage grouse and like the other mentions, the salmon issue, and the smelt, and now this South Hills cross bill, there's always something coming up by the environmentalists to create more havoc for us, isn't there?
There is. And the question that I ask the environmental groups, because I'm in meetings with them time and time again, is how much money have you put on the ground to save that species? I don't care whether it's a piece of grass or whether it's a bug or whether it's an animal. You show me what you guys as a group have put on the ground to save that species.
You know, that's really...
They do not care about the species, and they have told me right face to face that they would rather spend their money on attorneys and courts. And they're taking our tax dollars to beat us over the head in court with this issue.
Well, you bring up an excellent point. Let's talk about the sage grouse issue. They want the ranchers to redefine what they're doing and how they're using the range at the ranchers' expense, right?
Right.
And the environmental groups, really aren't spending anything at any time to help the species at all. No. Why hasn't this point been brought out to the general public that the so-called defenders of the wildlife are the leeches and they're not spending any of their own money?
Well, there's one guy that brought it out a little bit, and that's the guy that gave me that book, The Real Wolf, and he's the one that wrote the book, and he's an attorney out of Texas, and he signed the book for me, and he lays it out in that book over the chapters of what the real wolf is. And it is money, and it is the environmental groups. And it's laid out in that book.
There is literally, and I don't use this term loosely, but I think, Jack, you would agree that since you started with the fighting of the wolf reintroduction 20 years ago, not millions, but billions with a B, billions of dollars are now on the table for all the different environmental causes. Again, starting in California with the smelt and moving to the water issues, the spotted owl issues, the wolf issue, and now the sage grouse and others. Billions of dollars. And how do we fight that kind of money?
Well, we can't. And there was a guy that worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service years ago in Washington, D.C., good friend of mine. And he found in his work that there was money going to the environmental groups, tax money going to the environmental groups for this kind of thing to beat us over the head with. And I think he uncovered like $67 million and in 1 year. And he tried to bring that to the GAO and other people. Do you know what they did to this man? The GAO did an investigation on that in Washington, D.C. They confirmed everything that he brought out. But because he was outspoken about it and brought it to the forefront, the last 10 months of his government employment was told to stay home. We will send the check to your house.
I remember
and
you.
That actually happened.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. So in other words, they were covering him up so that he couldn't say or do anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
They took him out of the office. They did away with him.
What do you make of stories like this in a very leftist newspaper, which it's got worse over the last couple of years, the Times News, with this whole front page story about the South Hills Cross bill? Really, what do you make out of this?
Well, I make a lot of things out of it because I look at the money. Where did the money come from? How did it get to this group out of the University of Wyoming that did this? Yeah. But what is going to be the results? The results is what I look at the most. And, that's why, and the results are going to be bad for Joe Blow, for you and I, for you on your four-wheeler in the South Hills, for people going to get firewood, for a lot of things. But, we have got to try and get people to get on board and help out.
Right there, I got to interrupt you because
talking.
That's been your mantra since way back in 1995, is that people have to get on board, they have to start talking, they have to get organized, they have to have a unified voice. And, wow, that's a tough row to hoe right now today, Jack, to try to get anybody to get up and do anything.
Well, a tough row to hoe is not unbeatable. And I learned that through the Right to Hunt, Fish, and Trap bill. That bill was tried in the Idaho legislature in 2003.
Yeah.
It never made it anywhere. In 2006, it came back, and it made it through the House and not the Senate. And so in 2011, I took a senator to the governor's office, and we discussed this, and we talked about it. And the bill was ran again in 2012, and it passed, and it went on the ballot, and it passed. Now, from 2003 to 2012, but it's part of our Constitution.
Yeah.
You have got to find people that have enough guts to stick with it. And I felt that I stuck with it.
Well, we need, and I've said this before on the program, and I'm not saying this to be facetious in any way, shape, or form, we need about 30 more clones of you to help us on these various projects. And let's face it, since you and I started working together 20 years ago, both of us have got a little bit longer in the tooth and a lot grayer in the hair, and somebody's got to step up.
And my good friend Grant Gerber.
Yeah.
I've sat in his office with his son Travis down in Elko. And I says, who's going to pick up his briefcase and who's going to carry it?
And it's still sitting there.
It's sitting right over there in his chair.
Yeah.
There's nobody to pick it up and carry it.
Oh, my. Jack, stand by. We got to get the weather forecast in here. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Everything they sell is guaranteed, and they got that summer barbecue special for just $199. Ribeye steaks, New York strips, sirloin tips, ground beef, boneless pork chops, brats. Oh, my! You don't want to miss this. Check it out today. Call them at 324-7657. Scarrows Meats in Jerome. And right now, here's the weather.
Here's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Looks like this high-pressure system is going to be sticking around throughout at least the next week, possibly the next 10 days, and it means it's going to be sunny and hot. Probably to mostly sunny skies for today. High right around 100. Expect a low right near 67. For Wednesday, as we kick off the first day of July, sunny and 97, and it's going to remain pretty much steady. Highs are going to be in the upper 90s to low 100s. Lows are going to be in the low to mid-60s for the next week. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you very much. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Jack, with the stories that are in the press, whether it's the wolf, whether it's the problems in California, or whether it's now this new story, brand new, about the South Hills Cross bill, little by little, inch by inch, like I said a moment ago, it seems like those with the environmental persuasion are doing all they can to move you and I out of any use of public lands. How dangerous do you think this story is as compared with the wolf and the snail darter and everything else?
Well, if the story is true, and that's the only place that bird exists, it's not that dangerous.
Yeah.
But I've learned over the years that trying to deal with politicians out of Washington, D.C., especially Dan Ash, who is Obama's U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service pick, that words mean very little. And, so compared to the sage grouse, or compared to the wolf, it's probably not going to affect as many people. But if that South Hills thing, that will be closed. People will not be able to go get their Christmas trees there.
Yeah.
They will not be able to go do anything in that area.
Yeah.
If you can see, or I can see, what's going to come about.
But little by little, it's all about, like the word you said, 7-letter word, control.
That's right.
And we're seeing so much of that right now in government. I am shocked that we have roughly, I got to look at my date book here, we have 569 days left with Obama. And there's so many things that are just sitting on the table that I'm really afraid this man's going to get behind, and with the stroke of a pen or his telephone, executive orders, he's going to close the door on us.
Well, I am too, and I don't know how many people know, but we met with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service over the wolf issue a couple of years ago, and it was February of 2012, I think it was, and we met with Dan Ash, and he called us, wanted to meet, the attorney out of Bountiful said, we'll get our group together and we'll come to Washington. He said, no, I won't be seen in Washington with you.
Yeah.
He says, we will come to Salt Lake. And they did in February of 2012. And we hammered out a delisting in the lower 48 states with Dan Ash. Today, those papers that was agreed on that day has been put in file 13.
Oh, my goodness.
It was agreed on. We got everything we wanted except the red wolf in New Mexico and Arizona.
Yeah.
And who can you trust, and how can you trust them?
Well, let me ask you this. Here we are almost at midsummer, 2015, and what about the wolf situation? I wanted to touch on that just a little bit for a few minutes. What's going on behind the scenes that maybe I don't know about it, the general press does, or public doesn't know about it, the press isn't reporting on it? What's going on with some of those so-called lawsuits on the delisting of the wolves?
They have been put back on the list to be protected everywhere in the United States now, except Idaho and Montana.
Even Wisconsin and Minnesota, my goodness, are being overrun with them.
Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan. and they have taken them off there. They have taken them off in Wyoming. They've taken them off in the Northeast, and they're back on the list.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
I always think, and I lay in bed at night thinking, why are we still the way we are in Idaho and Montana? And I think that the last line that we got in the budget bill to delist the wolves in Montana and Idaho that says, and this cannot be challenged in court.
Yeah.
And that was signed by the president. Now, in the sage grouse thing that we got going through the defense bill, the last line says, and this cannot be challenged in court. Senator Brackett and I were talking about this just the other day, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we get it through, I don't know if we'll get it through, but will it be? We'll get it through Congress, but will he sign the bill?
Quickly, I've only got a couple of minutes left here, Jack, but I've talked to many people back in my former home state of Wisconsin and also where I went to college at the University of Minnesota. And a lot of people in the outer fringes that live basically towards the wilderness areas of those states, they're just throwing their hands up because the wolves are in uncontrollable numbers back in those states. What do you find after you talk to those people in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan? What are they telling you about what's happened here in Idaho?
They're telling us that they've thrown their hands up over this issue, and they don't have the money really to fight it. State people or state agencies or individuals, they don't have the money because the environmental groups are getting so much money from the federal government. It's a shame, Zeb, what is going on today and what is happening to our tax dollars. And now they're going to go after our churches for more tax dollars.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're headed.
I don't either, but when I talk to these people back there in the Midwest, farmers and ranchers, livestock growers, they are just absolutely, like you said, throwing their hands up in the air because they're being overrun, not with hundreds, but thousands of
Yes,
wolves.
And let me tell you something else. We were told when they were brought here that we didn't need to worry about them getting mixed up with dogs and coyotes and all this stuff. That's a bunch of baloney. Today, there is no Canadian gray wolf left. They are breeding with domestic dogs. They're breeding with any dog that is in heat, whether it's a coyote, whatever it is. And they are interbreeding. And all of this stuff that we were told is a bunch of BS and baloney.
Wow. Okay, Jack, stand by. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the free pre-trip safety check. Absolutely a visual inspection to make sure that your vehicle is in good, safe running condition. To go see Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred, don't forget all the tires. They've got the Wildcat AT2 all-season traction tire on sale right now for your pickups and SUVs. And the best in brake service for well over 30 years, the best in brake service for their customers. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, it's all there. The best in service to you. At your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Jack, I got exactly 30 seconds. If you were going to sum up our conversation today and including the South Hills Cross Bill, the wolves, everything else, what is your statement to wrap the program up today?
My statement is people better wake up and try and protect what we have left, because there are people using our own money against us to stop whatever we've been doing, whether it be getting a Christmas tree, getting firewood, recreating, or whatever it might be. We're going to be taken away. And ranchers, wake up.
Absolutely. Jack Euler, one of my dearest friends on the program this morning, thank you so much for being here. I want to remind everybody, tune in tomorrow morning at 8:06, Zebeth Ranch, and we'll be back with more. And remember, the way things were, I got to say it right, I've only said it a million times, the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless you and your family. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.